The email from Knox arrived on a Tuesday morning, right as I was closing a deal worth millions. My hands trembled as I read it, coffee growing cold beside my laptop. After 5 years of peace, his words sliced through my carefully constructed world like a rusted blade. My name is Kendall, and I built my company from nothing but determination and spite. The spite part? That came from Knox, my ex-husband, who spent 6 years telling me I'd never amount to anything without him. Ms. Evans? My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The Tokyo investors are waiting in the conference room. Give me 5 minutes, I replied, my voice steadier than my hands. The email glared back at me. Our divorce was never properly finalized. I'm entitled to half of everything you've built. My lawyer will be in touch. I reached for my phone, clicking Riley's number without thinking. My sister answered on the first ring. Hey sis, what's up? He's back. The words caught in my throat. Knox? Riley's voice sharpened. What did that bastard do now? Claims the divorce isn't valid. Wants half my company. I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to me. 6 years of emotional abuse wasn't enough, I guess. Don't you dare let him get to you, Riley said. Remember where you were when you left him? And look at you now. I glanced around my corner office, 40 stories above Manhattan. The view still took my breath away sometimes. I know, but no buts. You're Kendall fucking Evans. You built Horizon Tech from your garage while that asshole was telling you to get a real job. Don't let him shake you. A knock at my door interrupted us. Morgan, my mentor and board member, stepped in. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. I've got to go, I told Riley. The Tokyo meeting. Call me after. And Kendall, you've got this. Morgan approached my desk, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. What happened? I turned my laptop around, showing her Knox's email. Her eyes narrowed as she read. That manipulative son of a bitch, she muttered. Have you called Lexi? Not yet. Just got it. Call her, now. Morgan's tone left no room for argument. I'll handle the Tokyo meeting. Morgan, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. She squeezed my shoulder. Handle this. We both know Knox won't stop here. I nodded, already dialing Lexi's number. My lawyer answered immediately. Knox is trying to claim the divorce isn't valid, I said without preamble. What? Lexi's voice sharpened. That's impossible. I handled everything myself. He says he's got proof. Bullshit. Papers rustled in the background. I've still got all the documentation. Everything was filed correctly. He's fishing. But why now? I pressed my fingers to my temples. Why, after 5 years? Because you just made Forbes' 30 under 40 list, Lexi said flatly. Your company's valued at what? $200 million now? He's opportunistic, Kendall. Always has been. My phone buzzed with another email. This time from Graham, Knox's best friend. Just got another message. It's from Graham. Open it, Lexi ordered. The message was short. Knox asked me to testify about your mental state during the divorce proceedings. I wanted you to know. I haven't given him an answer yet. That bastard, I whispered. He's trying to claim I wasn't competent when I filed. He won't win, Lexi assured me. But Kendall, this is going to get ugly. I thought about the USB drive hidden in my safe at home. The one containing emails between Knox and his mistress from our last year of marriage. The photos. The bank statements showing money he'd siphoned from our joint account to fund their rendezvous. Maybe it's time for ugly, I said quietly. I've got something that could destroy him. Kendall. No, listen. I've spent 5 years taking the high road, building something meaningful. And now he wants to tear it all down? My voice hardened. I'm done being the bigger person. Come to my office, Lexi said after a pause. Bring everything you've got. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. As I gathered my things, my phone lit up with a text from Riley. Remember who you are now. Don't let him make you feel small again. I caught my reflection in the window. Designer suit, confident posture. Nothing like the woman who'd fled her marriage with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. Knox wanted a war? Fine. But this time, I wasn't the same woman he'd broken all those years ago. This time, I was ready for him. Riley showed up at my apartment that evening with a bottle of wine and determination in her eyes. She found me sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, surrounded by old papers and photographs. "I can't believe you kept all this," she said, settling beside me and examining a photo of Knox with his mistress outside a hotel. "I learned from my mistakes." I took the wine glass she offered. The first time he cheated, I had no proof, just my suspicions, which he convinced me were paranoid delusions. God, I wanted to kill him back then. Riley picked up another photo. "Who took these?" "Private investigator. Hired him right after I found the lipstick on Knox's collar. The classic tell, right?" I laughed bitterly. Cost me every penny I'd secretly saved, but worth it. My phone buzzed. Morgan. "How are you holding up?" she asked when I answered. "Going through the evidence file." I put her on speaker. "Riley's here." "Good. Listen, I've been making calls. Knox has been reaching out to investors, trying to create doubt about your stability." My stomach clenched. "What exactly is he saying?" "That you were unstable during the divorce. That you made irrational decisions. He's suggesting you might not be fit to lead the company." Riley's hand found mine and squeezed. "That's rich. Coming from the man who told her she was crazy for wanting to start a tech company." "Exactly," Morgan said. "But here's the thing. He's getting pushback. Your track record speaks for itself, Kendall. 5 years of consistent growth, innovative products, stellar leadership." "But?" I prompted, hearing the hesitation in her voice. "But some people love drama, and Knox is charming when he wants to be." "Tell me about it," I muttered, picking up another photograph. This one showed Knox kissing his mistress, now his wife Paisley, in a restaurant. That's how he got me. My doorbell rang. Riley went to answer it while I continued talking to Morgan. "We need to be strategic," Morgan advised. "Knox is playing dirty, but you have to appear above it all." "Lexi's here," Riley called out. My lawyer walked in, briefcase in hand, looking as polished as ever, despite the late hour. "I've reviewed everything," she said without preamble. "The divorce is solid. He's bluffing." "But?" I echoed my earlier question. "But he's filed a civil suit claiming emotional distress and financial manipulation during the divorce proceedings." Lexi sat down, adding to our little circle on the floor. "He's asking for $100 million in damages." "That's insane!" Riley exploded. "It's a negotiating tactic," Lexi explained. "Start high, settle for less. Classic Knox." Morgan's voice came through the speaker. "What's our play?" I reached for the USB drive I'd retrieved from my safe. "I have proof of his affair with Paisley during our marriage. Bank statements showing he funded their trips with our joint account money. Emails where they planned their meetups." "Does Paisley know about these?" Riley asked. "No, I never used them." I twisted my wineglass stem. "I just wanted out back then. Didn't want to fight." "And now?" Lexi raised an eyebrow. "Now he's threatening everything I've built. My company, my reputation, my future." I stood up, pacing. He's counting on me being the same scared woman who left him, the one who avoided conflict at all costs. "Kendall," Morgan's voice was cautionary. "Be careful. Revenge can backfire." "This isn't about revenge." I stopped pacing. "This is about protection. He won't stop until he either gets what he wants or faces consequences he can't charm his way out of." Lexi nodded slowly. "I can file a countersuit. These documents prove financial infidelity during your marriage, plus the emotional abuse allegations." "No." I shook my head. "Legal battles drag on forever. Knox is counting on that. He wants to wear me down." "Then what?" Riley asked. I picked up the photo of Knox and Paisley at the restaurant. "We hit him where it hurts. His perfect new life with his trophy wife. His reputation as a successful businessman. The image he's carefully crafted since our divorce." "You want to expose the affair?" Lexi frowned. "That was years ago." Sometimes old wounds need to be reopened to heal properly. I sat back down. Besides, Paisley deserves to know what kind of man she married. The same way I wished someone had warned me. Morgan sighed through the speaker. If we do this, we need to be smart. Calculated. One wrong move, and it could backfire spectacularly. I know. I spread the photos out in front of me. But I'm done being afraid of Knox. He wants to play games? Fine. But this time, I'm not playing by his rules. Riley raised her wine glass. To karma. To consequences, I corrected, clinking my glass against hers. The game was on, and this time, I had all the right pieces. The next morning, I arrived at Lexi's office to find Graham already waiting there. He looked uncomfortable in his expensive suit, fidgeting with his tie as I walked in. Thank you for coming, I said, taking the seat across from him. Knox doesn't know I'm here. Graham leaned forward, lowering his voice despite us being alone. He's not the same person anymore, Kendall. The success of your company, it's eating at him. Is that why he asked you to testify about my mental state? Graham winced. He's been drinking, a lot. Talking about how you stole his ideas, how the company should have been his. His ideas? I couldn't help but laugh. He told me I was delusional when I pitched the initial concept, said tech wasn't a woman's field. The door opened, and Lexi walked in, carrying 2 thick folders. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell. She sat behind her desk, eyeing Graham. So you're willing to go on record? I am. Graham pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages. Knox has been erratic. Last week, he showed up at my house at 3 a.m., drunk, ranting about how he was going to take it all back. My phone buzzed. A text from Riley. Morgan just called. Knox is at Horizon Tech, demanding to see you. Excuse me, I stood up, stepping into the hallway to call Morgan. He's making a scene, Morgan said immediately. Security's handling it, but he's threatening to go to the press with evidence of your fraud. What fraud? Exactly. He's grasping at straws, but some reporters are already sniffing around. I walked back into Lexi's office. Knox is at my company right now, threatening to go to the press. Graham's face paled. He mentioned something about that. He's been meeting with this reporter, feeding her stories about your past. What exactly has he been saying? Lexi demanded. That Kendall was unstable during their marriage. That she stole company ideas from his computer. That she manipulated him into signing the divorce papers while he was grieving his father's death. Graham looked at me apologetically. He's trying to paint you as this calculating manipulator. My phone rang again. This time, it was Knox. Put it on speaker, Lexi mouthed. I answered. What do you want? Your security guards just threw me out of my company. Knox's words were slightly slurred, even at this hour. It's not your company, Knox. Never was. Everything you have is because of me. I supported you while you played entrepreneur in our garage. I paid the bills. With money from our joint account, I interrupted. The same account you used to fund your affair with Paisley. Silence on the other end. Then, you can't prove that. Actually, I can. Every hotel receipt, every fancy dinner, every gift you bought her with our money. I have it all. You're bluffing. But his voice wavered. Want to bet your perfect new life on that? How do you think Paisley would feel about seeing those hotel receipts? The emails? The photos? You wouldn't dare. Try me. I ended the call. Graham stood up, straightening his jacket. He's not going to stop, you know. Not until he either wins or self-destructs. Then self-destruct he will. I turned to Lexi. How do we proceed? She opened one of the folders. First, we file a restraining order based on today's incident. Then, we prepare a cease and desist regarding his fraudulent claims. My phone buzzed with an email. From Paisley. Knox told me you're threatening him with lies about our past, it read. I know what kind of woman you are, trying to destroy our happiness because you couldn't keep your marriage together. I handed the phone to Lexi. Looks like Knox is getting ahead of the story. Perfect, Lexi smiled. He just gave us an opening. What do you mean? He's made it personal by involving Paisley. Now we can respond directly to her. Share our evidence under the guise of setting the record straight. Graham stood up. I should go. Knox will be looking for me soon. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have said something back then, when I knew what he was doing. After he left, Lexi turned to me. Are you ready for this? Once we start, there's no going back. I thought about Knox's drunken threats, about Paisley's condescending email, about all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep believing I was crazy. Send everything to Paisley, I said. Every photo, every receipt, every email. Let her see who she really married. And Knox? Knox wanted a war. I picked up one of the photos from Lexi's desk. Knox kissing Paisley outside their hotel. Let's give him one. The package arrived at Paisley's office at exactly 10 a.m. I knew because Riley's friend worked in the same building and texted updates. She just opened it, Riley read from her phone as we sat in my office. Her hands are shaking. I stared at my computer screen, trying to focus on work instead of imagining Paisley's face as she went through the evidence. The photos, the receipts, the emails where Knox promised to leave me for her. My phone rang. Knox. You vindictive bitch! He snarled before I could speak. What did you send her? Just the truth, Knox. Something you should have told her years ago. She's hysterical, threatening to leave me. His voice cracked. Is that what you wanted? You did this to yourself. I kept my voice steady. Remember when I was hysterical? When I found that lipstick on your collar and you told me I was imagining things. That was different. No, it wasn't. You're just finally facing consequences. The elevator dinged, and Paisley stormed into my office, mascara streaking down her face. I hung up on Knox. How dare you? She threw the envelope on my desk, photos spilling out. You had no right. Sit down, Paisley. I gestured to the chair. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. You're just trying to ruin my marriage because you couldn't keep yours together. Riley stood up. I'll give you two some privacy. Once the door closed, I picked up one of the scattered photos. This was taken 3 months before my divorce. Knox told me he was at a business conference in Chicago. Were you? Paisley's hands trembled. He said you were separated. We weren't. I pulled out the bank statements. See these hotel charges? That was our joint account. Money we'd saved for a house down payment. Stop it. But she was looking at the documents. Here's an email from Knox, dated 2 weeks before our anniversary. I slid it across the desk. My wife's going to her sister's this weekend. Meet me at our usual place. Paisley's face crumpled. He promised me I was different. That he'd never... My office phone buzzed. Ms. Evans, Mr. Powell is in the lobby, demanding to come up. Don't let him, I replied, then turned to Paisley. He's here. She wiped her eyes. Good. I have something to say to him. Security can stop him. No. She stood up, straightening her shoulders. I need to do this. We rode the elevator down together in silence. Knox was arguing with security when the doors opened. Paisley! He rushed forward, then stopped short seeing me. What did she tell you? Nothing I couldn't see for myself. Paisley's voice was ice. Those hotel receipts? Same places you take me now. Same restaurants. Same lies about business meetings. Baby, I can explain. Like you explained to her? Paisley gestured at me. Called her crazy? Paranoid? What words have you been saving for me, Knox? People were starting to stare. Knox grabbed Paisley's arm. Let's discuss this at home. She yanked away. Don't touch me. I talked to your secretary this morning, asked about your business trip last month. Funny how she didn't know anything about it. The color drained from Knox's face. That's right, Paisley continued. Same pattern, different woman. How many are there, Knox? This is all her fault. Knox pointed at me. She's manipulating you. Photos don't lie. Paisley's voice broke. And neither do credit card statements, or your secretary, or that pretty paralegal from your office who was very chatty once I started asking questions. My phone buzzed. A text from Riley. Graham just called. Knox took out a huge loan against his house last week. He's desperate. Knox turned to me, his face twisted with rage. You've ruined everything! No, Knox. You did that all on your own. I stepped between him and Paisley. Security, please escort Mr. Powell out. As security led him away, still shouting, Paisley turned to me. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. Don't be. I didn't believe it at first either. What do I do now? She looked lost, young. First, you call a lawyer. Then you check your joint accounts before Knox does something stupid. I handed her Lexi's card. She's the best. Paisley nodded, clutching the card like a lifeline. Thank you for showing me the truth before you lost as much as I did. She managed a weak smile. Yeah. As I watched her leave, Riley appeared beside me. You okay? Better than okay? I turned back toward the elevators. But this isn't over. Knox just lost everything he cares about. Making him more dangerous than ever, Riley finished. Exactly. The elevator doors closed. And we need to be ready for whatever he does next. The annual Tech Innovation Gala was in full swing when Graham found me at the bar. Knox is here, he whispered urgently, and he's drunk. I scanned the crowded ballroom. Where? By the stage. He wasn't invited, but he charmed his way past security. Graham's hands fidgeted with his bow tie. He's been telling people he's going to expose the truth during the awards ceremony. Morgan appeared at my elbow, looking elegant in her evening gown. We've got a problem. I know. Knox is here. Worse. She showed me her phone. He's leaked emails to the press, doctored ones, making it look like you stole company ideas from him. My stomach dropped. How bad? Bad enough that 3 investors have already called me. The lights dimmed, signaling the start of the awards ceremony. I was scheduled to give a speech in 20 minutes, the keynote speaker celebrating women in tech. There you are! Riley rushed over, slightly out of breath. Paisley just called. Knox emptied their joint accounts this morning. Every penny. Of course he did. I took a deep breath. He's got nothing left to lose. The first speaker took the stage, her voice echoing through the ballroom. I spotted Knox near the front, swaying slightly, a glass of whiskey in his hand. What's the play? Riley asked. I pulled out my phone and forwarded an email to several addresses. Plan B. Ah, are you sure? Morgan's eyes widened. That's everything we have on him. Everything except the financial records Graham gave us yesterday. I turned to Knox's former best friend. Ready to go public? Graham nodded grimly. He deserves what's coming. The host announced my name, and applause filled the room. As I walked to the stage, I could feel Knox's glare burning into me. Thank you, I began, adjusting the microphone. Tonight, we're here to celebrate innovation, determination, and truth. Knox stood up, stumbling slightly. Speaking of truth, I continued, I'd like to address some rumors circulating about Horizon Tech's origins. You stole everything from me, Knox shouted, his words slurring. Security started moving toward him, but I held up my hand. Let him speak. In fact, I think everyone here should hear what Mr. Powell has to say. Knox pushed his way toward the stage. You manipulated me, stole my ideas. Which ideas would those be? I asked calmly. The ones you called ridiculous pipe dreams when I first pitched them? Or maybe the ones you claimed would never work because technology isn't for women? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I have proof. Knox waved his phone. Emails. Doctored emails. Graham stood up from his table. Knox, stop. I helped you fake those, remember? Last week, when you were desperate for anything to use against her? The whispers grew louder. You're lying! Knox turned to the crowd. She's turning everyone against me. First Paisley, now you. Paisley left because you cheated on her, I interrupted. Just like you cheated on me. The only difference is she found out before you could gaslight her into believing she was crazy. You bitch! Knox lunged toward the stage. Security grabbed him as phones came out, recording everything. Mr. Powell is having a difficult time, I addressed the shocked audience. You see, he just lost access to his accounts after his wife discovered his multiple affairs. And the loan he took out against their house? I looked directly at Knox. The one you were planning to use to short Horizon Tech's stock? Graham told us all about it. Knox's face went from red to white. Graham? I'm done covering for you, Graham called out. The SEC has everything. The insider trading, the fake accounts, all of it. Security began dragging Knox toward the exit as he shouted, You'll regret this! All of you! I turned back to the microphone. Now, about innovation and determination. 5 years ago, I started Horizon Tech in my garage, with nothing but a dream and the courage to believe in myself, despite those who said I couldn't, despite those who tried to convince me I was worthless. The room erupted in applause. Later, as reporters swarmed asking for comments about Knox's meltdown, Riley hugged me tight. You did it. We did it, I corrected, watching as police officers entered the ballroom. Is that? Morgan nodded. SEC agents. Turns out Graham had quite a story to tell them about Knox's financial dealings. My phone buzzed with a text from Paisley. Thank you for everything. The police just arrested him trying to board a flight to Mexico. It's over. Riley squeezed my hand, but watching the agents collect statements from witnesses, I knew it wasn't quite over. There would be trials, testimonies, more battles ahead. But this time, I wasn't fighting alone, and I wasn't fighting from a place of fear. This time, I was fighting from a place of truth. The morning after Knox's arrest, I sat across from 2 SEC investigators in Lexi's office, watching them review the evidence Graham had provided. This is quite extensive, Agent Martinez said, flipping through bank statements. How long has Mr. Powell been conducting these illegal trades? At least 3 years, Graham answered from his seat beside me. It started small, insider tips to friends. Then he began creating fake accounts under different names. Using his wife's identity, Agent Torres added, holding up a document. Both wives, actually. I leaned forward. What? He opened accounts in your name during your marriage, Torres explained, and recently did the same with Paisley's information. My phone buzzed. A call from the prison. Knox. I declined it for the 3rd time that morning. He's been trying to reach me too, Graham said, noticing my gesture. Left 15 voicemails last night. The office door opened, and Paisley walked in, looking exhausted but determined. Sorry I'm late. Had to meet with my lawyer first. Mrs. Powell. Martinez gestured to an empty chair. Thank you for coming. It's Ms. Rogers now. I filed for divorce this morning. She sat down, pulling out a folder. I brought everything I could find from Knox's home office. Torres opened the folder, eyebrows rising. These are forged documents, attempted transfers from Horizon Tech's accounts. He was planning to drain the company's emergency fund, Paisley explained. Had all the paperwork ready. Just needed to get past their security protocols. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Riley. Turn on the news, now. I grabbed the remote from Lexi's desk, switching on the wall-mounted TV. Knox's face filled the screen, an old photo from happier days. Breaking news: Tech executive Knox Powell accused of massive financial fraud. Sources say Powell attempted to flee the country after a public meltdown at last night's Tech Innovation Gala. Great, Lexi muttered. The media's running with it. My phone rang again, Morgan this time. The board is calling an emergency meeting, she said when I answered. Knox's accusations about stolen intellectual property. Some investors are nervous. Put it on speaker, Lexi instructed. I did. What exactly are they saying? They're concerned about potential lawsuits. Knox may be in custody, but his claims could still damage the company's reputation. Graham stood up. I can help with that. I have proof Knox never contributed any ideas to Horizon Tech. In fact, he pulled out his phone, scrolling through old messages. I have texts where he mocked the entire concept. The agents exchanged looks. We'll need those messages, Martinez said. Another buzz from my phone. An email from Knox's criminal lawyer. My client is willing to recant all claims against you in exchange for dropping the charges. Don't even think about it, Lexi warned, reading over my shoulder. I wasn't going to. Paisley leaned forward. There's something else you should know. Last week, Knox met with a journalist, promised her proof that Kendall was mentally unstable during their marriage. My hands clenched. Let me guess. More forged documents? Medical records, Paisley confirmed. He had them doctored to show psychiatric hospitalizations that never happened. That's a federal offense, Torres noted, writing something down. My phone buzzed yet again. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won? I still have friends. Powerful ones. This isn't over. I showed it to the agents. Add witness intimidation to the list, Martinez sighed. He's desperate, Graham said. When Knox feels cornered, he lashes out. Always has. Which makes him dangerous, Lexi added. The TV caught my attention again. Sources close to Powell suggest he may have been involved in other fraudulent activities across multiple businesses. The SEC investigation is ongoing. They have no idea, Graham muttered. But they will, I said, turning to the agents. I want to make a statement. Go public with everything. Kendall, Lexi cautioned. The media attention, will happen anyway. Better they hear the truth from me than Knox's lies from someone else. Paisley nodded. I'll back you up. Tell them how he operates, how he manipulates people. Me too, Graham added. It's time everyone knew who Knox really is. My phone buzzed one final time. Another prison call. But this time, I answered. Ready to negotiate? Knox asked, his voice smug even now. Actually, yes. I met Lexi's eyes, getting her nod of approval. I'm about to go public with everything. Every scheme, every lie, every manipulation. Unless what? The smugness wavered. Unless you sign a full confession, take responsibility for everything, leave me, my company, and Paisley out of your lies. And why would I do that? Because right now, you're looking at 20 years. Cross me again, and I'll make sure it's 40. Silence on the line. Then, you've changed. No, Knox. I just stopped being afraid of you. I hung up, turning to the agents. Shall we begin? The courthouse buzzed with tension as Knox was led in, wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of his usual designer suits. Our eyes met across the room, and for the first time, I saw something new in his expression. Defeat. All rise, the bailiff called out. Riley squeezed my hand as we stood. Paisley sat 2 rows behind us, Graham beside her. The past week of media coverage had taken its toll on all of us, but today would end it. Before we proceed with sentencing, the judge began, Mr. Powell has indicated he wishes to make a statement. Knox stood slowly, his handcuffs clinking. Your Honor, He paused, looking around the courtroom. I've had time to reflect in custody, to realize the damage I've caused. Here comes the performance, Riley whispered. Kendall, Knox turned toward me. I apologize for the years of emotional abuse, for making you doubt your sanity, for cheating on you and then trying to destroy everything you built. The judge interrupted. Mr. Powell, are you confirming the allegations of psychological abuse? Yes, Your Honor. Knox's voice cracked. I manipulated her, gaslit her, made her believe she was crazy. When she succeeded without me, I couldn't handle it. I tried to tear her down again. Paisley let out a soft sob behind me. And to my current wife, ex-wife, Knox corrected himself, I apologize for continuing the pattern, for the affairs, the lies, the financial fraud in your name. Mr. Powell, the judge leaned forward. You understand these admissions will be part of the record? I do. Knox straightened his shoulders. I also want to state, for the record, that Horizon Tech was entirely Kendall's creation. I never contributed any ideas or intellectual property. My claims were false, motivated by revenge and greed. The journalist who'd been writing hit pieces about me scribbled furiously in her notebook. Furthermore, Knox continued, I admit to forging medical records, attempting to manipulate the stock market, and planning to embezzle company funds. I acted alone, except where I coerced others through manipulation or threats. The judge nodded. Given your confession and cooperation with the SEC investigation, this court accepts the plea agreement. Mr. Powell, You are hereby sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for 8 years. The gavel struck, and reality hit me. It was really over. Knox turned to face me one last time as officers approached to lead him away. Kendall? I stood, walking to the barrier separating us. Yes? That night in our garage, when you first told me your business idea. He swallowed hard. You were right. I was wrong. You were never crazy. I was just afraid you'd realize you didn't need me. I know, I said quietly, for what it's worth. He glanced at the officers waiting to take him away. Watching you succeed was like dying slowly. Each achievement was a reminder of what I'd lost, what I'd thrown away. That's called consequences, Knox. He nodded. I know that now. The officers took his arms. Take care of yourself, Kendall. You deserve it. As they led him away, Paisley approached me. Did you believe him? The apology? Does it matter? I suppose not. She wiped her eyes. The money he stole from me. I don't think I'll ever see it again. Actually, I turned to face her fully. I have a proposition for you. Horizon Tech is launching a new division. We need someone with your expertise in marketing. Her eyes widened. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a fresh start, like the one I had to make 5 years ago. Riley joined us, grinning. Plus, it'll drive Knox crazy, knowing you're working for Kendall. He'll have a lot of time to think about it, Graham added, approaching our group. 12 years. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Evans, how do you feel about the sentence? Ms. Rogers, will you be keeping Mr. Powell's name? Mr. Hoffman, are you worried about professional repercussions? I stepped up to the microphones. Today isn't about Knox Powell. It's about truth prevailing over manipulation, about standing up to abuse in all its forms, and most importantly, about moving forward. What's next for Horizon Tech? Someone shouted. I smiled, putting an arm around Paisley. Growth, innovation, and helping others rebuild their lives after surviving similar situations. Later that evening, as Riley, Paisley, Graham, Morgan, and I sat in my apartment sharing wine, my phone buzzed one last time. A text from Lexi. Knox signed all the paperwork. It's officially over. To new beginnings? Riley raised her glass. To karma, Paisley added. To truth, Graham offered. To healing, Morgan suggested. I looked around at these people who'd stood by me, who'd helped me fight back, who'd believed in me. To freedom, I said, raising my glass, and to never letting anyone make us doubt ourselves again. The city lights twinkled beyond my windows, and for the first time in years, I felt completely, utterly free. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the final draft of my memoir. Riley sat across from me, reading her own copy, while Paisley paced nervously behind us. Are you sure about this? Paisley asked. Publishing everything? The advance copies are already out, I replied, turning a page. No turning back now. My phone buzzed. A text from Graham. Knox saw the book announcement. He's requesting a meeting. Delete, Riley said, not looking up from her copy. You don't owe him anything. Actually, I set down the manuscript. I want to see him. Paisley stopped pacing. Why? Because this needs a proper ending, for all of us. The prison visiting room was cold and sterile. Knox sat across from me, thinner now, prison life etched into his face. The advance copy of my book lay between us on the metal table. Beautiful Lies, a story of survival and success. He read the title. Subtle. I thought about calling it How My Ex-Husband's Abuse Made Me a Millionaire, but my publisher thought that was too on the nose. A ghost of his old smile flickered. You always were better with words than me. He tapped the book. Your sister sent me excerpts. It's honest. That's the point. The part about our first date. He shifted uncomfortably. When I told you your dreams were too big for a small-town girl, I didn't realize how much that hurt you. You didn't realize a lot of things, Knox. No, I didn't. He opened the book to a marked page. But this part, about the night you left, You wrote that you felt both terrified and free, that it was like breathing for the first time. It was. I read that section 7 times. His hands trembled slightly, trying to understand how I became someone who could make another person feel that way. My phone vibrated. A message from Morgan. Today's stock prices just came in. We hit a new record high. Knox noticed my small smile. Good news? Horizon Tech just broke another record. I watched his reaction carefully. The company you said would fail within a year. I was wrong about everything. He closed the book. The reviews say this will be a bestseller. That's not why I wrote it. I know. He met my eyes. You wrote it for other women. Women like you and Paisley. So they'll recognize the signs faster than you did. Yes. How is she, Paisley? Thriving. She's heading our new marketing division. Turns out she's brilliant when she's not being told to doubt herself. Knox flinched. I deserve that. You deserve a lot of things, Knox. But this isn't about punishment anymore. It's about healing. Is that why you came today? To heal? I came to tell you I forgive you. His head snapped up. What? Not for you. For me. Because holding on to that anger was exhausting. I don't deserve forgiveness. No, you don't. But I deserve peace. A guard approached, signaling our time was ending. Knox stood awkwardly. The book. Will you sign my copy? I took the book and pen he offered. On the title page, I wrote, The truth sets us all free, even those who tried to bury it. Back at the office, Riley and Paisley were waiting with Morgan and Lexi. A bottle of champagne sat on my desk. How was it? Riley asked cautiously. Surprisingly peaceful. I picked up my copy of the book. Ready for tomorrow's launch? The pre-orders are incredible, Morgan reported. Your story is already inspiring people. The domestic violence hotline mentioned in the acknowledgments has received hundreds of calls since the advance reviews came out. Good, I said softly. That's exactly what I hoped for. Paisley raised her glass. To turning pain into purpose. To breaking silence, Lexi added. To building something beautiful from something broken, Riley offered. I looked around my office, at the women who'd become my strength, at the empire I'd built from ruins, at the book that would help others find their way out of darkness. To truth, I said, raising my glass, the most powerful weapon we have. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from an unknown number. Your book saved my life. I'm leaving him tonight. Thank you for showing me it's possible. I smiled, looking out at the city skyline. Knox had tried to make me small, but in doing so, he'd forced me to discover just how big I could become. Sometimes the worst things in our lives lead us to our greatest purpose, and that's a truth worth telling.